Hello everyone. I'm Yumi from the American Democracy Channel. We are working from Florida to protect the freedom and rights of the United States. We look forward to your support. I would be very happy if you could subscribe to the channel. In Florida, it's Thursday, January 28th. Newsmax has released some amazing news about the Tokyo Olympics today. According to the article, if Japan cancels the Tokyo Olympics, Florida has offered to hold it on behalf of Tokyo. It seems that there is a possibility that it will be held in the state where we live. Mr. J, please give me details.
Yes, I understand. I will tell you the content of the article. Florida Chief Financial Officer Jimmy Patronis apparently sent a letter to the International Olympic Committee urging him to consider relocating the current Olympic Games in Tokyo to his state. Patronis wrote in a letter to IOC President Thomas Bach on Monday. Media reports show that Japanese leaders are too concerned about the pandemic for the 2021 Olympics. It seems that the event is in jeopardy. We still have time to deploy a site selection team in Florida to coordinate with statewide and local officials. If you do, we will spare no effort to help you. Please listen to this. The IOC denied the Tokyo Olympics to be cancelled after the British Times reported that the Japanese government had personally concluded that the Olympics would not be held this summer due to a coronavirus pandemic. After being postponed for 1 year by the new corona, the Olympic Games are scheduled to start on July 23, but a new wave of altered coronavirus has issued a state of emergency, and public suspicion remains. It seems to indicate the danger of this event. Patronis continues in his letter. As a great tourist destination, Florida welcomed 131 million tourists in 2019. Our state has the kind of infrastructure needed for this type of major event. There is ample hotel capacity and a well-maintained transportation network. Washington, D.C.-based news site The Daily Caller says Florida has multiple sites in Sunshine with large sports facilities, eliminating the need for major construction work in preparation for the Olympics. Points out that is a good place for the Olympics. However, Reuters reports that it is virtually impossible to relocate in just 6 months, as it requires a large-scale plan to host the Olympics.
The spread of the new corona infection is dozens of times greater in the United States than in Japan. Of course, Florida is no exception, so I think Tokyo is much safer than holding it in Florida. Japanese politicians should promote that the reality of Japan is safer than any other country. And if they're worried about foreign pollution, I think they should cancel it and hand it over to Florida. What do you think, Jay?
I agree. It's best to hold it in Tokyo, but I think the people wouldn't allow it to be held in their country. I think it is a good idea to declare cancellation as soon as possible. The story changes drastically, but today's Natural News had an interesting article, so let me introduce it here. In this article, Mr. Trump seems to have issued the Insurrection Act before the inauguration day of new president. However, it says that he could not do anything because of the refusal of the military. It seems that the military assumed that a civil war would occur with a high probability, and was afraid that the military would become more vulnerable if a civil war broke out. If a civil war actually occurs, the motive is that the defense from the invaders will be very weak and the people's safety will not be protected. However, in the military, it is said that all the facts that foreign powers and the Democratic Party have teamed up to commit this fraud are foreseen and evidence is secured. A list of rebels related to this has already been made, and they are looking at the timing of arrest. At present, many people are still expecting Biden, and now, when he starts arresting, there will be a backlash and there are concerns about civil war, so they wait for Biden's bad politics to become known to the public and his popularity to decline. It is said that it is in a state of being. Furthermore, Waiting for the court to examine fraud can be a trigger. And, under the present circumstances, the mass media is reporting that it is impossible for Biden to report wrongdoing, and that he is doing a good politics for the people. This condition does not end so easily. It may take a year or two, or it may last longer. There is a need for greater momentum for the public to eliminate Biden. To do that, the people need to stand up to dispel his wrongdoing. And trying to move us.
I agree. I believe that even the small power of each person can move the country if 80 million voices are united. I want to believe that the voice will grow louder and the military will intervene. It seems that the Democratic Party wants to impeach Mr. Trump, who has returned to the general public, for violating the Constitution, as he knows that the will of the people is great.
Not only the Democratic Party, but the deep states within the Republican Party are trying to support it. According to yesterday's National File, one Republican said he would off-record and secretly impeach other lawmakers to prevent Trump from returning 4 years later. It is said that it is rooted in. He seems to say that it would be in the political interest and the Republican interest to leave Mr. Trump out of the political world. He tells everyone that Mr. Trump is the instigator of the January 6 raid. The assailants also said that they were inspired by Mr. Trump's words to stop accepting votes from the Electoral College in the joint session.
What a sarcastic villain. Since he has a lot of power within the party, there is a risk that a weak member or a member seeking a position to stand out in the Senate may turn over. The impeachment trial is unconstitutional, and Judge Robert, the federal high court judge, seems to have refused to be a judge in this trial, but wouldn't it be impossible to make a trial without a judge?
However, the Democratic Party announced the day before yesterday that it will not be the Supreme Judge, but will have Senator Patrick Leahy, a member of the party, as a judge and judge. According to the U.S. Constitution, the Democratic Party says that only the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court can preside over the impeachment trial of the U.S. President or Vice President. However, the Constitution appointed Senator Patrick Leahy, 80, as a judge, saying he did not mention who would preside over the impeachment trial of the President, who is no longer in office. Leahy's role in this personnel is the same as that of Supreme Court Justice John Roberts, with one exception. Not only does Leahy decide on the questions that arise in the trial, he also serves as a jury, like any other senator, and votes for impeachment. He said, "I consider the role of acting judge and the responsibilities that accompany it to be one of the most honorable and most serious responsibilities of my career. When I preside over the denunciation trial for former President Donald Trump, I will not shake my constitutional and sworn obligation to manage the trial fairly in accordance with the Constitution and the law." However, the Washington Examiner said Senator Patrick Leahy was a well-known critic of Trump and voted in favor of the last Trump impeachment trial, arguing that the trial was very unfair.
This can only be called a conspiracy anymore. It has not been proved that Mr. Trump is responsible for the attack on the Parliament building, which was the source of this trial. The Democratic Socialist Party seems to say that he said something like sedition, but what he said did not meet the legal definition of sedition, and those who invaded the Capitol went to a rally held by Mr. Trump. We don't know if they were in attendance, and we haven't been proven. Nor is the Democratic Party trying to prove it legally. That's because they know they can't prove. That's right, Jay?
Yes, that's right. Everything the Democrats have done is out of the legal process. Also, the very act of going to the Senate to bring the case is likely to be unconstitutional. The question is why the Senate wouldn't have the Supreme Court deliberate before holding the case. A trial that violates the Constitution is useless to deliberate, and the trial itself should be a crime. I really wonder why the Supreme Court hasn't slammed anything about this trial.
We have no choice but to keep an eye on this outcome, But is there any way to stop the trial from starting?
According to the National File, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul is persuading the senator to stop the move. He had a great debate on ABC TV yesterday, and I hope he will take root in other Republicans who should stop the impeachment trial. If they go into deliberation, I'll be worried about which way the Democrats will fall in the dirty way.
I agree. Let's look forward to his work. Today is up to here. Thank you very much for watching until the end today. Goodbye until the next opportunity.